Let's go, girls. Welcome to Talk Wealthy to Me. Okay, ready? Okay, friends, if I asked you to picture someone who was truly wealthy, I think most of us would start by describing what they own: the beautiful home, the vacations, or the portfolio, the freedom to make choices without checking the price tag first. And for a long time, that's how we've been taught to measure financial success. Wealth has always looked like accumulation: more assets, more opportunities, more options, more. But over the years, I've spent doing this work and sitting across from a lot of amazing women building extraordinary financial lives. I've started asking a different question. I'm much less interested in what a client has accumulated, honestly. I'm far more interested, though, in what her wealth has actually changed about the way that she lives. Because here's something I don't think we talk about enough. Some of the most financially successful women I know still wake up every morning feeling like they're carrying the entire weight of their lives. And transparently, I've had those mornings. They're making more money than they've ever imagined, and their businesses are growing, their investment accounts are healthy. By every measurable financial standard, they're winning. And when you ask them how they feel, the word I hear most is not secure. It isn't free, and it isn't even excited. It's tired. And I know we've been talking about this a lot, but it is something that everyone's talking about a lot. They're not physically tired. It's a different kind of tired. It's the one that comes from being the person who remembers everything, anticipates everything, makes sure that nothing is falling through the cracks. The CPA emails her. The attorney needs something from her. The school needs a form, or somebody doesn't feel good. The contractor needs a decision. Somebody has to remember that the passport expires in 6 months. Here's looking at you, babe. None of that shows up on a balance sheet, but all of it has a cost, and it's a big one. There were times when luxury was easy to recognize: the bag, the car, the bigger house, the impossible to get reservation. Something that you and others could see, something you could photograph. But at a certain level of success, more things stop feeling like life is more luxurious. They just create more things that you or me or us have to manage. Research keeps confirming what a lot of women already feel in their bodies before they ever see it in a headline. In 2025, there was a study by the University of Bath, and it found that mothers reported roughly 67% more household management work than the fathers. And then the biggest gaps weren't in the doing, they were in the noticing, the anticipating, the follow up. A separate study found that 73% of mothers carry all of the conception and planning labor in their household, the thinking of it before anyone gets to the doing of it. Money does not erase that. In a lot of cases, it multiplies it because there are more assets that need attention. There are more advisors: a CPA, an attorney, an investment advisor, an insurance professional, maybe a property manager, a bookkeeper. I mean, the list goes on and on. Maybe a house manager. But who manages the managers? Still me, still you, still her. You can watch the same shift happening in a completely unrelated industry. Luxury travel, for example. For years, technology told us researching everything ourselves was smarter. Then, a 2025 luxury travel survey found that 84% of affluent travelers said a trusted advisor was worth more than unlimited research access. And more than 90% said the best trips feel effortless while still being expertly crafted. This is something that I've tried a couple of times, and it does. It makes everything feel like you're the husband that didn't have anything to do with the trip, and you just sit down on the airplane and you don't know where you're headed, but you know it's going to be great. Yeah, that kind of lets us feel like that. How much is that worth? Effortless, but expertly crafted. I think that might be the best definition of what modern luxury really is. Old luxury said, "Look what I have." New luxury, though, is saying, "Look what I no longer have to think about." And I am here for that. It's also why family office keeps surfacing in wealth conversations lately. Deloitte has projected that global family offices could reach roughly $5.4 trillion in wealth by 2030. That's not really a story about more billionaires. It's a story about more people discovering that coordination itself has value, that someone has to be the one holding the whole picture. And it was never supposed to be the same person living inside of it. This is some of the work that I do on the one-on-one consulting and wealth management side. We're looking at everything so that the client doesn't have to. The woman who built the business wasn't successful because she was excellent at approving invoices or remembering dentist appointments. She built it because she had vision, the ability to see around the corners and make thoughtful calls about where to go next. Vision requires space. You can't dream if you're underwater. Uninterrupted attention. Enough quiet for an idea to actually finish forming before the next notification pulls you elsewhere. I don't know about you, but some of the best moments of clarity happen to me when I'm in the shower, and then you have nowhere to even write them down. The irony is brutal, right? The very success that you built can slowly consume the exact mental space that made the success possible in the first place. That's the ownership tax. It's the gap between what you're capable of thinking about and what you're actually spending your attention on. And like any tax, the more successful you become, the more of it you owe, unless you are deliberately restructuring things. So the real question isn't how much more can I take on? It's what was I never actually meant to carry alone? And that's not a mindset question or a woo woo question. That's a planning question. And it has a planning shaped answer. Of course, quick disclosure, because I say this every episode and I mean it every time, this is just meant for education and not personalized advice. You're never going to make the most of anything you're hearing unless you have somebody that is a trusted advisor that you're working with to implement some of these things. Talk to your people before you make any big moves. Consider this the conversation that makes that one sharper. Okay, so for a long time, I thought this concept only belonged to the ultra wealthy, and that's that of a family office. Say that phrase, and people picture billionaires with private jets and a private team of investment managers and attorneys and tax strategists. Basically, an entire team made up of people who their whole job is ensuring that every bit of the moving pieces that are on a table like a jigsaw puzzle are coordinated. Now, most women hear that and think, well, that's not for me. I used to think that too, until I looked closely at what these offices actually do. It's not the size of the money that matters, it's that they treat complexity as a design problem, not a personal failing. And here's what I mean by that. Think about a typical successful client's advisor team. They have a CPA, they have attorneys, an investment advisor, maybe even a banker or a bookkeeper. Every one of them is excellent. Every one of them knows a lot about the other and how they work, but they're not the expert. Every one of them is operating in their own lane. The CPA doesn't know what the attorney just recommended, just like the wealth manager doesn't know what the CPA recommended. But who connects those dots so that they do? Well, oftentimes you do. You become the hub, you forward the emails, you're still playing telephone with all of these people, repeating the same story 5 times and maybe losing something in the shuffle. Making sure the person who needs the information is actually getting it, that's what's important. I have a name for that role, by the way. I call it the default coordinator. It's not a title that anyone gave you. It's just what happens when you're the most competent, most reachable person in the system. Everything runs through you, not because you asked for it, but because you're the one who always answers. Think about when you're out with a group of friends. There's always that one person that kind of takes the lead, that makes the reservation, that organizes everybody. Did she ask for that? Maybe not. Without ever agreeing to it, you've somehow become the project manager of your own financial life. And I don't think that's a personality problem. I think it's a design problem, and it has a design solution, like I said. Let's break it into 3 moves that I walk through clients through directly: consolidate, delegate, and elevate. So, consolidating means picking one advisor whose job it is to know the whole picture, not just their piece of it. Usually, this is whoever you trust most and talk to most often. I would guess you're probably going to identify that person as your wealth manager or your business strategist or a CPA. Their job isn't just to execute in their own lane, but it's to be the one that everyone calls or that you're allowed to call directly without running everything through you first. So giving permission to your CPA that if your wealth manager needs something, they go to them. But before you can consolidate the people, you have to consolidate the picture. And that means one real balance sheet, every account, every asset, every liability in one place and not scattered across statements or institutions. It means knowing exactly how things are titled, individual, joint, in a trust, in an LLC, because a lot of families discover the structure doesn't actually match what everyone else assumed. And it means one secure place for documents so nobody is searching 5 inboxes during an actual emergency. You cannot consolidate a team around a picture that only exists in your head. Delegate. This is basically you deciding in advance on a calm day which decisions genuinely require you and your attention. And then the ones that you're going to hand off permanently, get rid of those. Not just because this week I'm busy, but permanently. If a decision is under a certain dollar amount or falls into a category you've already given clear direction on, it should never touch your brain or to-do list ever again. And here's where I want to be precise though, because delegate gets misused. There's a real difference between delegation and abdication. Delegation is, oh, I understand the goal. I know exactly who's responsible. I know what authority they have, and I can step back if something doesn't need my attention. Abdication, though, that is having no idea what's actually happening, and you're hoping that someone else is handling it. I sign whatever's put in front of me without reading it. I've talked to you guys many times before about how you definitely don't want to do that. And one of those is freedom. The other risk is wearing freedom's clothes. A simple way to sort what actually belongs where is I ask clients to put everything into 4 buckets: what genuinely requires your judgment and nobody else's, like major decisions, values, vision. But then what requires real expertise, but not necessarily your personal execution. So, like tax strategy or legal drafting, investment implementation. Then, what can just be systemized, like bill pay and renewals, scheduling, and what should honestly just disappear? The subscription nobody uses, the policy that no longer fits, the advisor who creates more confusion than value. Most women only sort tasks into 2 buckets: things I do and things I worry about someone else doing the way that they need to be done. But the 4 buckets is what will actually free you. And then when we talk about elevate, this is really just what the first 2 moves buy you: the attention back, the time back. Not more free time to fill with more tasks, but more protected space to think like the owner of your life again instead of the operator. Maybe that's the real status symbol now, not the bag, although those are fun. Capacity, the capacity to be fully present at dinner or on a family vacation, to take a trip without running away from your family and sneaking in to check emails, to make one big decision without being depleted by 50 small ones. That doesn't photograph as easily as a new car, but it might be the clearest sign of real wealth that there is. Now, maybe you're listening to this and thinking, Michelle, I don't have 5 advisors. I have a CPA. I talk to maybe once a year on tax time. That's also not good. You should have people that you're talking to all the time. But even if you're somebody that just said that in your own head, that's okay, because this still applies to you. And honestly, it applies more to you because this is the easiest moment to build it right. You don't need a 40-person family office to start. Most of you will probably never work in a traditional family office, but you can build one on your own. You need one relationship where you say out loud, I want you to be the person who knows my whole picture, even the parts outside of your lane, so I'm not carrying it by myself. Then you need one honest list of what you'll always decide yourself and what you're ready to stop deciding every single time. That's the entire framework, just at a smaller scale. Complexity was never really about how much money you have. It's about how many people and decisions are tangled up in your life. You can have real wealth and a genuinely simple structure. You can have a modest net worth and a life that's a total spiderweb. The habits you build now, however small, those are the ones that hold when your life gets more complex, and it will. This is infrastructure, the same way your business has infrastructure. If your company grew from 5 employees to 50, you wouldn't expect the founder to keep operating exactly in the same way. You'd hire, systemize, delegate. Nobody would tell you to work harder. We extend that grace to business constantly. We never extend it to our own lives. The tools that we need. So, what are those? How do we actually know if you're consolidated or delegated or just telling yourself a fairy tale all about it? 2 tools: Plain and simple. Use them in order. First, run this on yourself. 3 questions. If I disappeared for 2 weeks, no phone, no email, what breaks? Could someone else find every login, document, or account without checking in with you? Do my advisors know each other exist, or do they only know what I personally relay to them? And if the honest answer to any of those is, oh, everything would stop, you're not managing your wealth. You are the infrastructure, and infrastructure doesn't get to rest. Second, take a look at your team. This is the tool I built specifically for this, and I call it the quarterback question. Ask yourself and each of your advisors this same question. If something changed in my financial life tomorrow, whether I sold something, bought something, income, whatever it is, who would you call? Listen closely to their answer. If it's a name, that's a good sign. It means there's already a person functioning as your quarterback, whether or not you've officially named them. I hope that any of the clients I'm working with would say, oh, Mr. CPA, I would call Michelle. I would bookkeeper, whichever it is, because I always talk about being the quarterback of their financial situation. If the answer, though, that they give you is, oh, well, I'd call you, that's the moment to notice. It means you're still the quarterback. Every piece of information still runs through you first, which means you haven't actually consolidated anything. You're just organized in the chaos a little bit better. The goal isn't to hear a specific name. The goal is to hear the same name from more than one advisor. That's what tells you the picture is actually shared, understood, and being chased by everyone, not just being held by you and repeated on request. So, they've stopped measuring their worth by how indispensable they are. That's worth sitting with because so many of us have spent years becoming indispensable because it feels good, right? To be needed is great, whether it's at work, at home, in our families. And that, though, can become the mistake because it's not the goal. The question isn't how do I become more indispensable? It's how do I build a life that becomes less dependent on me without it costing me the success I've already built? Because every yes has a cost. Every responsibility you keep instead of delegating is costing you something. Money is one of the only resources you can actually replenish. A bad investment year, a hard season in the business, those can recover. Time and attention don't work that way. Once they're spent, they're spent. Once the vacation is over, it can never be recreated. The first day of 3rd grade, they're gone. That's why the purpose of wealth was never just to accumulate more of it. It's to become deliberate about how you spend the parts of your life that you can't get back. Several months after that meeting, my client sent me a message. She didn't tell me she doubled her business. She didn't mention a new investment. She said, for the first time in years, I can feel myself take a breath. I don't think she was describing relief. I think she was describing what it feels like when the ownership tax finally comes down, when her advisors were actually talking to each other and she had decided in advance what was truly hers to carry, when her life stopped requiring her constant presence just to keep running and function. Nothing about her circumstances had changed overnight. She still owned the business, led the team, and had the crazy family life. But what did change was the weight. And maybe that is the definition of wealth that we've been missing. Not just about what you've accumulated and built or what you have bought, but what you've deliberately, intentionally stopped carrying alone. The goal was never to become the woman who can carry the most. It was to build a life so well and so close to what the big dream and vision is. And it isn't one that's going to require you to run every piece of it. All right, for my girls who still love homework, I'm going to give you some. Open your notes app and write down 5 responsibilities that are eating the most of your mental energy in your life right now. Not the ones that take the most time, but the ones that keep you thinking, that, genuinely require you. Circle the ones that could be handled by a person, a professional, or a system. And then finish this sentence and tag Talk Wealthy to me or Women in Wealth. My next level of luxury is no longer personally managing X. And send this episode to the woman in your life who is incredibly successful and still somehow the one who everyone reports back to or makes all the plans. Because if she's doing it for her friends, she's probably doing it for her family and her business. She needs to hear that competence doesn't mean she has to carry everything. If this made you realize you have plenty of advisors, accounts, and documents, but you're still the only one connecting the pieces, that's your sign that maybe the financial blueprint could help solve all of your problems. We look at what you own, how it's titled, where the risks are, and whether your team is actually coordinated. The link is in the show notes. Share this and the link with friends, and let's continue to change the way women think and feel about money together.